Hey, welcome to Midwest Education. Today, we're looking at square roots. So, let's go. Alright, square root of 9. And if you're not sure what this is saying, which you might not because you're watching this video, is we're trying to figure out is what number times itself is 9. So, what times what is 9? Or if you think about this, if you have like a square that's the area of 9, what are the lengths of those sides? Okay, this is like the inverse operation, the opposite of an exponent, or the opposite of a squared number. Okay, so what times itself is 9? And you may know this one, maybe not, but it's 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So what we say is that the square root of 9 is 3. Okay? Alright, let's try one that's maybe a little bit more complex. We'll see. Square root of 49. Ooh. So think about it. What number times itself is 49? You may know this, maybe not. 7. Alright, so what's it saying? 7 times 7 is 49. If you don't believe me, check it on a calculator. Okay? Alright, so again, what we say is the square root of 49 is 7. Just so you know, these two here, the square root of 9 and square root of 49, these are called perfect squares because their square roots are whole numbers. They're really nice to work with. Okay? But sometimes you don't get these perfect squares. You don't get these nice numbers that you're working with. For example, square root of 315. What? What is that? Okay, well, I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I probably need a calculator to figure that out. But there's ways that you can reduce it towards not such a weird looking square root. Okay? So what we do is we're going to factor this. Okay? We're going to factor 315 into prime factors until we see some nice things to work with. So I know that it's ended at 5. So it's going to be, I can factor out 5. So I take the square root of 5 times 63, which is equivalent to the square root of 315. Because 5 times 63 is 315. And by the way, I just took 315 divided by 5 on a calculator. That's how I got the 63. So, yeah. Anyways, let's factor 63. And you could factor out 63 by factoring out a 3. Or I chose to factor out a 7. Either way is going to work. You'll end up with the same equivalent expression at the end of all this. Okay? So I square root of 5 times, and then 63 I factor into 7 times 9. Alright? And then now I have that 5 and 7, which are prime factors. Those can't get split up anymore, but the 9 still can. The 9 can be split into a 3 times 3. Alright, here. Now I have square root of 5 times 7 times 3 times 3. And by the way, if you multiply all together in a calculator, you're going to get 315. So we still have an equivalent expression going on here. Okay? So now, here's where you got to make some notes to yourself. We're going to look for pairs, and then we're going to separate those into their own little parts of this expression here. Okay? And what I mean by that is for pairs, we have a 3 and a 3. That's a pair. Because remember, square root is what number times itself is a number. So we're looking for those numbers that are being multiplied together, the same numbers that are being multiplied together. Okay? So I can rewrite this now as square root of 5 times 7, which are my prime factors, times my square root of 3 times 3, which is my pairs. And because I'm multiplying, these are still equivalent expressions. Okay? I'm not changing it up. I'm just changing how it looks. It's still the same thing. Okay? Alright. Now I'm going to multiply. 5 times 7 is 35. So square root of 35 times 3 times 3 is 9. So square root of 9. Again, these are equivalent expressions. 35 times 9 is 315. Okay? And then now I'm going to take the square root of that 9. Now, that 9, by the way, that's a perfect square. Remember that from our last slide. It's a perfect square because 3 times 3 is 9. And the square root of 9, therefore, is 3. Okay? And you could be done right here, just so you know. However, this is not normally how we would write this because we're unsure if that 3 is being multiplied to the 35 or if it's being multiplied by the square root of 35. So when we're writing these out in the last part, Usually we write the whole numbers outside of the radical or in front of that radical. That radical is that little thing, okay? So it's 3 times the square root of 35. And this is our simplified version. That square root of 35 is an irrational number. It's not a nice one, okay? So if you want to see more examples like this or see what we're doing in Mirrorverse Education, then visit us at mirrorverseed.com. I thank you for watching and hope you have a great day. All right, adios.